All right, we are now live. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Phantom Effect live podcast. We are trying to do this every once in a while, let you guys have some fun with everything. As you'll notice, Devin's not here, thankfully. I've managed to hide the actual link from Devin this time, so I'm excited about that. As you can see, I am not alone. So today I am joined, and I'm gonna pronounce your last name without asking because I did really good earlier today with something. So I'm gonna press my luck, and I'm gonna try to go 2 for 2. So I know it's Carmen because that's pretty self-explanatory. But is it Serano?
That's it. You got it.
All right, 2 for 2. I'm killing it today with names.
Killing
it. So Carmen, you've done a lot, but you were more recently a co-star with a couple guys that we interviewed pretty recently, and Avery Waddle and Derek Brady with the movie Questions. Yes. So we'll obviously dive into that, but you've done a lot of stuff, various different episodes, and I'm not going to list everything because you've done a lot. So if there's anything that I don't mention that you want to talk about, obviously let me know and we'll jump into it. Okay. But for everyone listening, just as a quick little shot, you've done some stuff with Breaking Bad, Chop Shop, Runaways, probably the more recent TV show besides Breaking Bad that I think a lot of people will have been pretty familiar with.
Yeah.
So Carmen, not only do I appreciate taking the time to talk to me today, but it's a Monday. So how is Monday treating you?
Yeah, I had a dentist appointment this morning.
So maybe not the best.
Some appointments, just running around town. My highlight is this. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's always fun, regular to get out of like regular day-to-day hiding from everybody COVID life.
Yeah,
it's nice.
This started in COVID, which just goes to show you, the fact that we're almost at episode 50 and we're still in COVID.
Wow, that's
probably
fantastic.
It's crazy to think about. It's
crazy that it's been so long, but it has bred some really great things. Like that's really wonderful that this started in this. Yeah.
Yeah. And because of him. This guys, as you guys can see, there's his eye. The official mascot of the Phantom Effect podcast is here. My co-host wants to say that he's sorry for feeling a little bit under the weather, and thanks you for coming out. Good evening. But Cameron is here. He's going to be joining me today. We'll see if Cameron has any questions. Yeah. Do you have any questions you want to ask? Not yet. You want to think about it? All right, you can think about it. You'll let me know. But it's definitely weird when you think about like how long it's lasted, but then the fact that, like you said, it has led to just new and exciting things. So for you, like what, other than doing a lot of the work that you've been doing, which of course we're going to dive into, what to you has been something that you didn't foresee yourself like getting into or taking advantage of COVID happening, that you've been able to see, like, because of COVID, you've like gotten into something, or you've been able to kind of dive attention to something that maybe before you just didn't have the time for?
I think what I'm seeing now, not only in myself, but in a lot of other people, it's just self-reflection, just because we're not so super busy. It's starting to, kind of pick up now, but for a while there, it was just really, we were able to sit still for a while, and I'm also a life coach. So I do self-love and empowerment coaching. And so a lot of my clients were having time now because they were at home and not working. And so it's not so busy. So they just wanted to focus on things and not just focus. This brought attention and focus to like, hey, I don't like this. I don't like this behavior. I don't like this about myself.
Yeah.
And we just kind of have had time to sit with ourselves for a while and pay attention. I mean, just like even with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, I feel like that wouldn't have happened had we not really been still and able to pay attention, because we weren't so distracted with everything we typically are distracted by.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's weird the things you're able to free your mind for. And all right, everyone, we have an official question from Cameron. All right, what do you got?
Yay.
What do you got? What's your question?
Doo-doo.
That's not a question.
Doo-doo.
You silly goose. All right, there's your question. Go with it what
All right,
you can,
man.
Carmen. I don't
Doo-doo,
know.
man.
He didn't give you a lot,
No.
but
No.
I guess go with what you can. No.
You know, doo-doo happens.
Doo-doo.
Okay, buddy.
Doo-doo happens.
Yeah, it's true. See, there you go. Turning lemon into, well, I guess doo-doo, for lack of a better.
Exactly. I love it.
So obviously
I have a question. Did you watch the movie Questions?
I did.
You did.
I did. We got without naming names of how we watched it. We were able to watch it. We got some people commenting here. So I really enjoyed it, and so did my co-host, who he couldn't make it today. Like he just commented he's feeling a little bit under the weather. So again, like I had said off the air, Derek's and Avery said horrible things about you.
Horrible.
Like, just horrible things. So I didn't come into this with like the best impression. So here's your chance to, throw it the other way. What was it like filming questions with the two of them? And just don't hold back.
It actually was an awesome experience. I was talking to Derek just the other day, and so my background is I'm mixed background. So my father is Black, and my mom is Mexican, French, Cherokee Indian, English, Irish. So really,
just pick a part of the globe, and you're good.
I am everything, and so in this industry, it's rare. Well, what I've found, because I've been in this industry for quite a while now, it's like, oftentimes you have to fit a category. And so, and my name is Carmen Serano also, and I have a very Latin name and a very Latin look. And so I've mostly only played Latin roles, which I'm super grateful for. And that is my heritage, I'm Afro-Latina. But this film was really cool because most of our cast was African-American. And I was also able to play, a character by the name of Tara Sinclair, who was just this powerful woman, period. Right. It wasn't like, and when I signed up to play this role, they didn't change the name to Maria, which I was grateful for. And again, nothing against, my middle name is Maria. So, you know what I mean? It's great. I love it. Grateful for both, but also grateful that, that in this film, we were able to, just be, all of us, just be, and we didn't have to play the whole Hollywood game. And that's what was really great about it. And everybody was just so wonderful. It was such a family atmosphere. Derek and I are very close. We've been like brother and sister for over 20 some odd years. His wife and myself too are very close, and their children. Our kids all grew up together. And so, so when he asked me to be part of this film, I said yes before I even read the script. So that's how close we are. And then when I read the script, I thought, this is such a great film. I feel like Avery did such a great job writing strong female character roles. And it was so fun. It was so fun playing this character. I feel like I'm a badass, and I felt like Tara was a badass. I've owned businesses as well. And so I don't fuck around with my business. Like I am just, here it is. Let's lay it out. I'm a very kind person. And I've struggled with people pleasing a lot of my life. But when it comes to business, I'm very straightforward. Like, look, let's just get everything out of the way, all the bullshit out of the way, and let's just go straight there. So who that character is a lot like me. Okay. And I'm probably a little bit nicer, but
we'll see. There's still some time left. I mean, I'll reserve judgment for now.
I like it.
Again, they said a lot of things. So, I gotta take what I can. But you did say something that I do want to touch on because, again, I know you probably can't tell, but I'm pretty white. I know it's a shock. But we talked to Ara. He mentioned one of the reasons he wanted to do a movie like this is because he wanted to give like chances to people that might might not necessarily get them if he wasn't like the person directing this movie. And that's something that he says he really likes to focus on in everything that he does and everything that he does. And it's just funny that you say this because I interviewed Ted Lang from Love Boat a couple weeks ago, and he directs a lot of plays, and he directs plays about people who don't get their story told in like the African American community. So, and like, again, I was just talking to earlier today, I didn't do it live, but I was talking to a podcaster who does work with Wrestling Inc. And he got into the African Americans being represented in wrestling. And it's just fun. It was something that I wanted to touch on because, you know, this is probably the third or fourth time I've had this conversation or had that brought up to me in a very short period of time.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I think it's important to not only to talk about things like that when obviously, you know, appropriate, but I think all right, one sec. I think it also does because to show you that what it's like, what it means when people like Avery and yourself and others make that a focal point of something. And so we did ask them a couple questions about their movie. And so without directly repeating, because you said it was, you know, like your character was kind of similar to what you see as yourself in the movie. Yeah. So when you're preparing for a role like that, is it easier or harder if it's a character that you perceive as like a little bit like yourself?
For me, easier, because then I can just, you know, I mean, like acting, like you want to believe the person who's playing a role, right? So, you know, just it's creating believable behavior in imaginary circumstances. So it's pretty easy to, you know, kind of create believable behavior when the character or some of what's happening in the circumstance is similar to what you've experienced. So it's a lot easier that way. And it's still fun and exciting and challenging to do, you know, other things.
Right.
Because then you can play and you can, you know, get out there and just be whatever the hell you want, which is fun too.
Have like a little more fun with what you're like, kind of like how you're acting, I guess.
Yeah. And just kind of the choices that you make. And, you know, whenever I've read a script that has something that's different from me, it's, you know, it's pretty exciting too. Cause it's like, oh, okay, like, let's go there. Let's go there. And it's just fun to explore different facets of yourself. And that was cool. That was cool about the script too, you know, because he dealt with a lot of different things, you know, really about behaviors, like with men and women. And, it's very close to real life. So that was very cool, you know, like, and then that I was the person who presented him with the questions, you know, about his life. And again, that's also similar to me and who I am and what I do. I present people with questions. It's kind of like, hey, what do you think about that? And what do you think about this? And why do you do that? And what do you think that's about? So that's cool.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
So is it, when you're with a character that's pretty similar to yourself, did you foresee, and again, you know, you can, you know, crap talk Avery if you need to, but did you feel that like with a character that you saw as yourself in the beginning, as the, you know, the movie is progressing and your character is growing and changing in the movie, did that align with kind of like, if you were in that with a character that's like yourself, is that something that with the changes that took place in the movie, did you see that as something you were like, yeah, that if this was me in real life, I'd be doing something similar? Or did you kind of did the character change in a way that maybe you yourself wouldn't have?
With my character, I don't know, like for myself, if I'm looking at this situation, like I didn't have so much time on screen, but it was really just kind of giving him the vehicle, you know, just go out there and figure this out and then come back to me with your truth, you know, with the truth, dig deep and then come back to me. So in that regard, I feel like it's very much like me. Now, who I am and how I actually am with people is I spend a lot more time nurturing you before I go get the fuck out of here and go do your, Yeah. Cameron can't hear me, right?
No, he can't.
Good. Yeah, because Tara was kind of like, here it is. I told you to do something. Get the fuck out of here and don't come back until you have it done. Right.
Right.
So I'm not as, you might want to ask my kids, but they'll be like, you're
they
like
might
that
give
with
the
us.
real answers.
Yeah, they're like, you're like that with us, but not anybody else. So they're grown, so that's good. But yeah, I feel like in that regard, she was more very direct. I don't have time for this. If you want this, this is what I need you to do. And so I kind of like I like that aspect of her and that character, and and I can adopt that a little more in situations where I don't have to be nurturing and loving and kind. So
okay,
yeah,
I like that. So a kind of a way to differentiate a little bit, but still kind of stick to the roots, I guess, a little bit. I like that. So we had mentioned you've done a lot of different like shows and in movies and I'm sorry, Karen, what's your question? No, that's not a question. So with we asked Avery and Derek's questions, I'd be curious to see if your answer differs from theirs. Another question. Do you prefer when you're doing like TVs and movies, do you prefer one over the other? Or is one easier to you than the other? Like what's kind of like your biggest differences if you're filming a TV show versus filming like a movie like Questions or like a movie in general?
I mean, look, to be honest, I'm just grateful when I get to work. So I'm super grateful for each experience. I don't necessarily prefer one or the other. Just it depends on the budget. It depends on, where we are, especially with TV. Sometimes it's faster, right? And so you're in and out. With the film, depending on, again, the budget, your role, whatever, it could be longer. We have more time to play and develop and all of those things. So
right.
I don't know. I don't necessarily prefer one or the, no, I guess maybe I'll say film, because I feel like you have a little more time to just, play and explore and dive a little deeper. Again, it depends, it depends right. On the role. I'm just grateful to work, and to have the opportunities to work and play with so many different people. I've been really, really fortunate to be able to play like that in a lot of different, kind of fields.
Yeah. It's like, you're not going to turn something down, because it's a TV or versus a movie or something like that.
No. Each of them brings different experiences, and they're, equally wonderful, very different.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely respect that. So you've obviously, I want to dive into two specific things that you have done and like I said, we can take this a little bit differently. So obviously you were in quite a few episodes of Breaking Bad. So Breaking Bad is one of those shows where it was popular at the time, but somehow became even more popular when the show ended. Mm-hmm. So when you were filming it, did you see this as something that was going to become like what a lot of people consider like that iconic TV show, or like that, once in a kind of generation TV show? Like, did you have that understanding when you were filming it? And if not, at what point, like whether it was filming or after it, did it click to you that like this was something a little bit crazier than what I was anticipating?
I had no idea. Funny story though. I was in the pilot, right? So they introduced me and my character in the pilot. So I went into the show. When I went into it, was very different. I had a very different kind of, I wouldn't say expectation, but I thought my character was going to go in a completely different way. So originally they were casting my character, which was named something different prior to them getting to New Mexico. So at the time I was married in real life, and my ex-husband was on a television series called Wildfire that shot there in New Mexico. Because of the tax breaks, everything was pretty much shooting there, you know? So he was on a television series called Wildfire on ABC Family. And so I moved there with our children and began kind of working there. I started modeling there, which was really an interesting thing, you know, like in my 30s. And I was like, wow, this is a trip. And I was on billboards all over the city, which was another really weird trip. And then I had my son, who's now 30, was 15 at the time. My son has cerebral palsy. And so when this script got to New Mexico, the casting director, Sherry Rhodes, called me because she knew our family. Again, my husband was on a show. I was auditioning for stuff. And Sherry wanted my son, Mark, to read for the role of Walt Jr. So she brought him in. Well, now, mind you, my son, he was 15. He had never wanted to be a part of this industry, never wanted to like read for anything because his speech is severely affected. And so he felt really self-conscious and like, I feel like I'm trying to be something I'm not. I don't like this. I don't want to read. So he didn't. I'd never bothered him with it. So Sherry sent me the script, the pilot of Breaking Bad, so that I could share with my son, Mark. So he reads the script and he's like, this is like our family. Like, you know, it's like, I mean, you know, like in a sense, it was like, we're kind of dysfunctional, but also we don't treat him like a disability, like, or we don't even see the disability. It's just, he's Mark. And if he's, you know, acting a fool, then he's going to be called out for acting a fool. And it was really very similar to him. And so he was like, Mom, I really like this. And I don't feel like I have to be anything other than what I am. So he went in, he read it, he got a call back. Then he went in to read for Vince. They brought him back again. Then they asked me to come in. Now, Sherry had already had me in mind for the role of, I believe her name was Margaret when they wrote the pilot, but then they wrote her out because they didn't find her here in LA. So now they're in New Mexico. Sherry's telling Vince, listen, I want you to think of Carmen for Margaret, who was either the principal or a teacher who eventually down the road, Walt would have an affair with. When he got sick. And so this was kind of what I had in the back of my mind. Now they asked me to come in and read with my son in front of Vince. So I'm reading Anna Gunn's characters stuff with my son. And so Vince gets a chance to kind of see my work, my acting. And then my son Mark ends up going to network for the role of Walt Jr. against RJ Mitty. They go together. Now, if you can see, my skin is very brown and my son's is as well. And so him not looking like the family, you know, was Vince thought it's okay. We'll say he's adopted. Network, I don't feel like was really going for it, but they both went to network and RJ got it. And then later I was offered the role. And they wanted to introduce my character in the pilot, and they changed the name to Carmen. So that's how I ended up on Breaking Bad. And but that wasn't the answer to your question. So did I know it was going to be
a great story, though?
Great story. So I didn't know it was going to be what it turned out being in the beginning. I just knew that everyone involved was amazing. And especially beginning with Vince Gilligan, he is an absolutely amazing human being outside of being this genius writer, showrunner, creator. He's just a really kind, generous, thoughtful, brilliant human being. And so is Bryan Cranston. And so when we began, you know, I had the idea that my character was going to be more visible and more of an integral part of the show. But, you know, it didn't turn out that way. But the just the time that I was there was amazing. And then, you know, obviously when Brian started winning Emmys, then it was like, oh, holy shit. We're like doing
this is a little different.
Yeah. We were like, whoa, this is happening. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Cause I was in the first, second, and third seasons. And then I felt it when I was getting ready to get axed because, well, I didn't really, you know, get axed, but he left the school. So then
right. Yeah.
No more principal. Right.
That might give it away when you're like, yeah. I mean, then again, that gives you the opportunity to make it really awkward. And you can just be like, hey, I was just curious, like, how are we doing these back shots at the school?
Yeah.
Like, now that he's not at the school anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, though, I mean,
it brought me back at the end. The last season, Vince brought everyone back. He's just great like that. He wanted to bring in all the original characters and all of us, you know, somehow. So I was in the second to last episode. They brought me back, and that was really cool and a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, it's you like to kind of hear, you know, that it wasn't. You were like, yeah, and then, you know, I hated the entire experience, but I mean, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I absolutely loved every moment of it.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to take you way back. So obviously you can correct this. This might be wrong, but the very first thing on your IMDb, like if and again, everyone knows, links will be posted and everything, is girl number 1 in a movie called Next Friday, which I've seen the movie, and it is a very funny movie.
Yeah.
So I want to take you way back to 2000. So what was kind of getting like that initial start like? And then also, like I kind of mentioned off the air, what about acting to you was something you were like, this is where I want my drive and my passion to go?
So we'll even go further back to when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I was just I want to do this. And we had a cousin who lived with us, and she won this thing on the radio that was like, come in and meet with a live Hollywood agent and, you know, get a shot at getting a break. So my mom was her ride. So I ended up, you know, taking a ride with them. So here I am, this like little brown girl, super frizzy hair and like stick skinny. And so go in, and they weren't all that interested in my cousin. And they were like, what about her? And I was like, yes, you know, God. And so my mother and my father were just really shitty parents. Like, to be honest, this was like one of the best things they ever did for me. And this is my mom, but they had issues with drug addiction. And so I feel like they did this because, you know, it was really cool and people were interested in, you know, what I look like. And so they were excited about the possibility of their kid being like on TV or something. So they were like, this is cool, so let's support it. So they actually paid for me to have this big photo shoot done. And it was like the best experience of my childhood. Like I, you know, did this whole photo shoot, it was all about me. And it was so fun.
This is my time.
Yeah. And they had like, oh, I wish I had it in front of me. We had like the 8x10 with like 4 pictures of Carmen Robles. And it was like, you know, it's like me, like, ooh, you know, the whole 80s thing, you know, like, and roller skates on and everything. So fun. And then they took all these pictures and they never took me to any auditions. And then, so I think maybe I met with a couple of more, maybe I think I went to one audition. And so it was just, you know, it was okay. Nothing ever happened. And I thought, okay, this is my dream. This is what I want to do one day. I want to act. And I got pregnant when I was 16. And I felt like, okay, like that's it. Like I'm just a statistic. and there goes my dreams of ever being like anything that I had hoped or imagined I would be. When I was little, I said I was going to be an actor, a model, a makeup artist, and a singer. I had very huge dreams and hopes, and I wanted to be everything. And so I started doing makeup when I was like 15, and I started getting makeup jobs. And then, and I can't sing a lick, like, so that was just gone. But the makeup thing started going well. And then when my son was born, there were a lot of complications at his delivery, which resulted in him having cerebral palsy. But he was beautiful, like really, really this stunning kid. And so when he was about 2, I thought, let me get him an agent. Like, I'll just find him an agent and maybe he could do what I wanted to do. So I start submitting his pictures and everything. I go into an agency, and the modeling agency, the agent comes downstairs. She meets me in the stairwell and she goes, "Hey, you." And then I was like, I don't know who you are. And she goes, "No, wait. What agency are you with?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "You're a model, right? Like, who reps you?" And then I was like, literally, Mark, I could have died and gone to heaven. I was like, oh, she said I was a model. Oh my God. And I was so excited. Like, I could really, that would have been, if that was it, it would have been okay. Like, everything would have been fine. But anyway, she was like, "Come upstairs." So they end up signing my son. They asked me to come back, and they signed me. And so that's what started me on my career. So what I felt like was the end of me getting pregnant, it was actually him and me taking him in that got me started. And then I started taking acting classes, and I did like a couple of grad films, some short films and whatnot. And then I got married, and my ex-husband was on a television series called Dangerous Minds. It was on ABC, and like it was a spinoff of the movie. And he was repped by an agency, and they knew me. And so they were like, I didn't even have an agent at the time. Next Friday came up. I had done a show at the LA Improv. A friend of mine had recommended me to do this show called Latino Logs that Rick Najera had put up at the Hollywood Improv. And so it was fun. I had a lot of fun with it. Somebody had seen me there as well, and my ex-husband's agents. And so they were like, "Hey, do you think Carmen would want to read for this role in Next Friday?" So I read for the lead. And I went in, and I had like 2 callbacks. Then they brought me in for a chemistry read with Ice Cube, and they ended up going with the other girl. I believe her name was Lisa Rodriguez. And then they offered me the role of girl number 1. And of course my ego was hurt, but I took the role, and I had a lot of fun. And so fun fact is, my daughter Cheyenne was about 1.5 years old when I booked Next Friday, and I was still nursing her. And so when I booked Next Friday, the guy at Crafty, our caterer, his wife had nursed their kids till they were like 4. So he was really sensitive, and he was like, "If you want to bring in your milk to the Crafty truck, I'll freeze it." So here I was like playing hoochie number 1 in my trailer, like pumping my boobs, and my boobs were out to here. They were fantastic for the film.
Right.
Until I pumped, and then, it'd show up on set. So, but yeah, that's how I got started. And then that was a little bit about my first role.
Wow. So how do you, like you said, you kind of feel like your whole world's falling apart. How do you push your, I guess, mental self to not succumb to that thought process? Like, what to you was like that, whether it was like something that happened or something that you just kept telling yourself? I know you mentioned kind of like getting, finding your son an agent, but where was kind of that mental point for you where you just said, like, I'm not going to let this, wear me down or define who I am, or, something like that?
It's I don't know. It's a weird thing. I was probably like 12 years old, and I read a scripture in the Bible, And my parents were not religious. Like I told you, they were partiers and they were doing their thing. And so I read a scripture in James, and it says, "Rejoice, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance, and perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." And I memorized it because I felt so connected to it. I felt like, oh, I get it now. Like,
Right.
things that happen to you in your life, even if they're bad, are meant to take you to another place. They're meant to make you stronger. And here I was 12, and my life just looked like, it was hard. And I felt like, okay, like I said, I ended up pregnant at 16. And I felt like, I don't have to allow everything that's happening in my life to dictate who I will be and how I will look at life. Now, mind you, I didn't have the best behaviors because of, again, I was pregnant at 16. And
Right.
and I take full responsibility for that. But I feel like I was never a victim and never wanted to be. I felt like whatever happens, I can take it and I can learn from it and I can grow from it. And eventually, I always knew this, eventually I'll help others deal with what they go through, because I've been through it, and I will survive and I will succeed because of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thanks.
Because I think it's important for people listening, or people that listen to this down the road, to see what it's like when someone else is able to find, the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's obviously like, you always hear a lot of things, and obviously stuff sometimes is always easier said than done. But I think it's when you can hear like the real world examples is when you kind of get a sense of like what you could do, or maybe a different way to take something to get you into that, better mindset, or whatever it might be.
I really do think that that's the key, Mark. Honestly, like the way you take it, kind of how you roll with things. Like I teach people now, what you resist persists, right? So I always talk about, take it like a wave. Like when a wave is coming at you, it can look really scary and it can be really big. And if you resist it, what happens? Oftentimes you're thrown underneath, and now you're tumbling and you're taken by the wave and you can't breathe. And then there are other times where you can see this wave coming at you. And if you embrace it and kind of allow your body to move with this wave, it can carry you to shore. It can just take you and you can just ride that wave, and it can be beautiful. And so I feel like in my life, now there were plenty of times where I resisted, plenty, and I fell flat on my face and I needed to get up and do the shit all over again. Like,
Right.
And had to have it done a million times. And I'm like, okay, if I don't get this lesson, I'm going to keep being knocked on my ass because I need to get it again. And it wasn't until I really was like, all right, I need to sit still and I need to listen and I need to get this so that I don't have to keep falling on my ass. Right.
Right.
So it was really about how I feel like my growth. And then it's funny, even now, like here I am on a podcast interview. The reason you know about me is because I've had some kind of success somewhere, right? But still, I'm just that kid, you know what I mean? And I'm like, wow. So I'm talking about it, and you're like, have you had these successes? And I'm like, yeah, shit, I have had a lot of successes. And I'm like, here I was, on billboards all over the place I lived when I was in my 30s, and after I had 3 children, like things. I've been really blessed, but it wasn't like I was chasing this specific dream. It was like, and it wasn't like I had anything handed to me. I didn't have anything handed to me. My life this shit was hard, but I feel like I didn't sit there going, this is so hard and I'm pissed off at the world. It was like, okay, shit happens. I do.
Yeah.
do happens.
Do happens.
And so I felt like, every time something wonderful did happen, I think, much more grateful than had I just had things handed to me. But yeah, I really feel like it's all about perspective. And how I took it was like, I'm learning.
Yeah.
And it was the school of hard knocks, but shit, I learned a lot. And I'm super grateful for what I've been given and blessed with. I don't take any of it for granted.
I'm glad to hear that. Not to completely burst your bubble, but I just Googled random names and yours popped up. I just got lucky that it was a real name. Awkward if it wasn't. No.
Really awkward, right?
Yeah, it'd have been really weird if I'm just, but obviously, like you said, it's, and again, that's also why we like to do, and why I like to do things like this, is because, it's obviously you can tell yourself a lot of things like over and over and over again, but you reach a certain point where it becomes, that's just you telling yourself something over and over and over again. And hearing something from the outside sometimes is like sometimes the weird thing that triggers something, or, hearing, successes, which does, like, again, bring us to wanting to dive into who you are. Like everyone knows, if you're new, welcome. But if you're not new, that we always dive into as much specifics as we can about, who someone is. So we did talk a little bit about this before off the air, but who is Carmen outside of, being on TV or being in a movie? Like if you're having to elevator pitch yourself, what would you say that, those passions, those fandoms, how would you elevator pitch yourself?
Yeah. I think nowadays I'd call myself more of a healer. I said too that I am a life coach and self-love and empowerment, but I think that where my life has brought me, I've found that not only am I passionate about, but I'm very good at helping others to learn to love themselves and to really get in the space of, like I said, embracing all of it. Not just the good, but, the bad, the indifferent, like everything. Because I feel like the more we can do that and kind of ride these waves rather than resist, then our life, we can get to the levels that we really want to get to. And so I feel like I am a woman who's been through, like I said, a lot. And what I have taken from it is a lot of gratitude and the desire to help others to get to that space too.
Yeah, I like that. And so when you're doing like your work and being a life coach, how do you approach, because obviously every person's is different and unique. So how do you approach something like that?
You mean when I talk to a client who wants to get to another place? So, a lot of the time when a client will come to me, they'll, I think specifically, they'll understand that there's something in their life that's not really working, and that they're trying to see like what's going on, but they can't really connect the dots. And so for me, I feel like my gift is listening and helping others to understand, if this isn't working for you, let's look at where it began, and a lot of the times it's behaviors, so I'm an actor and I'm a student of behavior. So I've become really good at observing and watching behavior. That's my job, right? Like as an actor, but it also served me very much as a coach, because I can observe and because of everything I've gone through too, I can kind of look at the two. And this is also like what I do with my acting, right? When I have something that's similar with a character, kind of using it. But when we have behaviors that aren't serving us, like I have this, so for instance, you come to me and you say, I cannot be vulnerable. I have really big issues with intimacy. Can't say I love you, or blah, blah, blah. So we really kind of dig in. Or you have issues with your behavior. Like I get so angry and I throw things when this and this and this. So what we want to do and what I want to help you with to do is, let's look at these behaviors and then let's look at the wound that caused this behavior in the first place.
Right.
Because if we don't look at the wound and if we don't try to dig up the wound and heal it, that behavior won't ever change. You know, it's not as easy as saying, well, I mean, because if you're calling me and you're saying this is the behavior, I mean, you know, be easy for somebody to say, well, then change it. Don't act like that.
Stop doing that. All right.
Well,
Thanks.
stop fucking throwing things.
All right. Click.
Stop.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Some people figure it out.
Exactly. You know, and I wish it was that easy, right? So I knew there was stuff about me, you know, like, and I also knew where the behavior came from. Like I used to do, not proud of it at all. When I was hurt, I would like throw or hit or like just cuss you out or whatever. When I was really hurt, I knew precisely the moment it happened. It was like my stepdad had molested me. And
Wow.
I told my mother, and I was 12. And I told my mother, and my mother asked me, what do you want us to do? I was in a car with her. She had taken us out of the house. My little sisters were playing in an arcade, and I'm in the car with her myself. And I said, I want us to leave. And she yelled at me and she said, where do you expect us to go? You expect us to just leave him? And in that moment, I felt like I'm on my own, like I'm completely on my own here. And I got so fucking angry, like,
Yeah.
I hate you, angry. Like, I hate you, you fucking bitch, angry.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to bust the windows out of this fucking car, angry. And
Yeah.
I've never felt such rage in my life. And that rage stayed with me for so long, Mark, so long, because and anybody who had a role in my life that was supposed to love or protect me, if they weren't, and if they kind of did that same, like, well, whatever, that rage came back. That rage came back, and I wanted to hit and punch and throw things and break things and curse everybody out. And again, I knew where it came from, but I still couldn't change it, right? So I couldn't change that behavior until I did the work and went underneath it and healed that part of myself, so that when I got hurt, I could say, that really hurt my feelings. And I wasn't wanting to kick your fucking ass. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I would, you know, I was the chick, I'd take the earrings out and beat your ass. Like,
Yeah.
And I would say, like, don't worry about the girl on the billboards over there. You know, she'll get prettied up later, but I'm still taking these earrings.
It's time for the real me.
Exactly. So that's how I feel like, you know, if we don't deal with the root, which is the wound, then we're not going to change, you know, behaviors.
Yeah. Which it's again, I couldn't say how to, you know, find that out, you know, without obviously, you know, this is probably a very long answer. So I know it's probably going to be hard to kind of shorten it up, but what to you was the like catalyst to get to that point? You know, was it like a mentality, or was it just like, what was the work to get you to that catalyst to then get past like what obviously is a very traumatic experience?
Ooh. So a lot of therapy. I did do a lot of therapy. I really, in 2010, I was assaulted again. And so they call it kind of re-victimization. And even though I hated that word and I really studied that word and resisted that word, I began to embrace it, because being a victim is not a negative thing. It's something that happened to you where you lost power, right? Somebody took your power in that moment. And I was assaulted, and it brought back so much shit for me. And to that point, now, mind you, I had already been on Breaking Bad. I was on an Emmy award-winning show. I was on billboards all over the city where I lived. I owned 3 businesses. I had 3 locations of my day spa. I'm a makeup artist. I teach makeup. I was doing projects with women in battered women shelters, helping them to discover their own value and self-worth. And here I was in the thralls of PTSD. I began having panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and it was bad, really bad. Within 3 months, I had closed down 2 of the locations of my spas. I had asked my ex-husband for a divorce. I wanted out of my life. And so everything came back. And I had to really now, even though I had already begun the work in my, my 20s, 30s, so now I'm here in my late 30s, and it was, like I said, complete thralls of PTSD. And so I began to do a lot of therapy. And then, so it was years. And then I had to actually go on some medication because the PTSD was so intense. Yeah. And so I did for a little while. I'm really anti medication a lot of the time because my parents were drug addicts. So I felt like I don't want to become, having to be dependent.
Yeah. It's like, you're a different person, but the weirdness of wanting to put yourself in that situation, can outweigh it.
Absolutely.
And I do know, I mean, obviously my reference to this isn't nowhere near like that. But my dad spent 30 years working in psychiatric hospitals, for people that not only perhaps had a deep mental issue, but then sometimes that, was schizophrenic or, whatever it was, or drug problems or whatever it was. So if I ever did growing up have to get surgery for something, whether it was wisdom teeth or whatever it was, and they were ever prescribed medication, I was not allowed to touch it. Wow. Because my dad saw the effects of what it did to people every day at work. And he was like, he's like, odds are this wouldn't do anything to you. You're not going to get addicted or hooked, but if you can deal with the pain, I'd prefer for you to deal with the pain if you can. But then again, he's a crazy guy who will cut himself up and be bleeding and be like, no, it's fine. No, Dad, we got to go to the hospital. No, it's fine. I'll finish the chores first. No, you're not.
That's really interesting though. And that you bring up that and drugs, because I was resistant, but then I went on for a little while. And after I went back and forth to my ex-husband for a few years. And then when I turned 40, I decided to travel to Thailand by myself. Okay. And this trip was life-changing for me. Now, mind you, I had already been through a lot of therapy. I had made it my full-time job to heal. I had begun auditioning again. I think I had already gone back to and finished my last episode of Breaking Bad. I went to Thailand. I knew of a couple of people who were going to be there. And someone mentioned psilocybin to me and ayahuasca. And they said that sometimes in these places that they would do this journey. Now, I had never heard about it before. I was like, I don't even know what that is. They were like, man, you could have this really amazing spiritual journey or a trip or blah, blah, blah. Now, I tell you, I've been super anti-drug, super anti-everything all my life because I was so afraid of it. And because I've seen what it does. And I prayed about it and was like, if there's an opportunity for me to do something like that, I think I might. And I was in Thailand and I was offered a mushroom like this big. It was like a fresh mushroom. Now, I had no idea. I didn't know what it was going to do to me. I didn't know anything. And this mushroom, literally, I felt like Alice in Wonderland, right? It was a huge mushroom, and it was this fresh mushroom, and they just kind of just thought, they were like, we make mushroom milkshakes here. And it was this bar, and I was like, wow, So I thought, I'll just eat it. So I was eating it. I ate half the mushroom, and I felt pretty zen. I felt pretty cool. But my friends were like, how are you not tripping out of your mind? Or the friend that I met out there. And they were like, you should totally be tripping out. And I'm like, I don't really feel anything. And so one of the guys, he knew me, and then, but they were with their group, and so I was like, I think I should take more. And they were like, no, you're going to freak out. I ate the whole mushroom, ate the whole thing. So then the group was going down to watch the sunrise. Cause now it's about 4:45 in the morning. We'd been at this bar and they had hammocks and mats, people go there to trip. Right. So they're laying out and all that stuff. So I begin walking through the jungle to make my way down to the beach to watch the sunrise. And my friend says, Carmen, you're not letting go. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And then I said, no, I'm good. Like, I'm good. Cause I felt like really like buzzed, but like,
yeah, that sweet spot.
Yeah. Like the good drunk, right? Where you're not sick.
Yeah.
I was like, I am good. Like, I'm good. And so I'm smiling to him like, I'm good. And then he goes, you're doing that thing that you always do. And I'm like, what thing? Yeah, what thing? And he goes, you're doing that like, I'm good. Like everything's perfect. Like your whole life is perfect. You always act like everything is okay. Like you've got it all together.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. And he grabs me by my shoulders and he goes, oh, let go. And he kind of like shakes my shoulders. And he goes, let go, Carm. Just let go. And I went like, started crying. And I was like, holy shit. And now I'm crying, like the ugly cry mark. Like, And then he's like, now go and let God or whoever is your God, like just come and just go. So I make my way down to the beach and I see the moon coming out. And now, mind you, in my life, I always worried about what people thought about me. Like I always had to try to, make sure that my life didn't look like my parents' lives. Right.
Yeah.
I had to I was going to be successful. I was going to be smarter. Even though I had a kid at 16, I'm like, I'm going to pull this shit together. Right. Like, I'm going to do well. And I'm going to show everybody that I'm not that statistic that got pregnant at 16 from this really fucked up family. So I go down to the beach and I look up at the moon and I'm like that weird lady, like, like to the moon,
was it like Dancing with the Wolves?
Totally. Right. So I'm like arms up and I'm like worshiping this moon god or something. And then all of a sudden, okay. And another thing about me is very body self-conscious because I had a kid when I was 16 and he weighed 11 pounds, 3 ounces. That's why he has cerebral palsy.
That is a heavy kid.
Huge.
Yeah.
So my body, a 16-year-old, I couldn't really handle it. I stretched out crazy. So I had lots of stretch marks and all that stuff. And so that's my body. Like that's just, what I had to deal with. So if I wear a bikini, I wear a sarong, right? Everything's covered up really nicely. So everything you see looks really put together and really nice.
Right.
I start taking off all my clothes. Like, I don't give a shit who sees me. This is the first time in my life. So I am like worshiping the moon god and taking off all my clothes on this beach in Thailand, tripping out of my mind. And then I go into the water and I am like, and then the only time I came out of it for a second was this guy who was coming out of the water goes, holy shit, when he sees my like nakedness. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. So I go in the water and I am, there's no sucking in my stomach or trying to be sexy. I am crying hard, like doubled over crying, releasing the most pain I've ever released in all of my life. I had the most life-changing experience ever. When I got out of that water after that trip, I felt like I was being born again into a new life. Like and then I felt like I got it, God, everything's great. And boom, I fell. And my shin starts bleeding all over the place. And I'm looking at my shin and I'm like, I get it. Like, this isn't it. This is just the beginning. Like, this is just the beginning of my journey. I get to now live with all that shit that I've been through behind me. Yeah. It's no longer in my present and it's no longer going to stop me from having the future I want. And that was the most liberating, wonderful, healing experience of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important to have stories like that because, like you said, you don't know what the catalyst or what the thing is going to be. And that's why I like asking questions like that, because you don't know, what it could take and what it, what you want to do or which direction you want it to go, like listeners to this show know that I've got other crazy stuff going on. No, not yet, bud. Going through like different things, and it's like you try to figure out not only what direction you want to go, but how you want yourself to get there. And you never really know. So to kind of tie it in as we get ready to wrap up, would you say that you use that, like kind of that newer mentality that you discovered that day, into your acting career, like whether it's to find a role or whether you're auditioning for roles? Like, do you think that new mentality has better prepared you for, like kind of the world of acting?
Yeah, it has, in the sense of freeing me up to not care so much about being perfect. So that frees me, and also understanding that, like, what's real. If I'm meant to play a role, or there's this connection for me, then there is, and it will happen. Like, I don't have to chase things or worry as much. It just, that space of understanding that we are all connected and we are all one, and what truly is important. It's not having money or success or fame as much as it's being connected, and having that shared consciousness and awareness together. And so it's helped me in the sense of, letting go and letting things just be, and more free to be myself, like who that is, with all the fucked up stuff too, and the stretch marks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Learn to love your actual self versus who you're thinking you're supposed to be, or
exactly.
or whatever that would be. No, I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
So Carmen, I know we mentioned a lot of different things, so of course, I'll post links, but where is like the best place for people to follow like your career or the different things that you're doing?
Yeah, I share a lot of stuff on Instagram, or as often as I can. Sometimes, social media can be,
it's
one of those
it's a trap.
It is a trap. I'll go through that rabbit hole and I'm like, oh God. So when I'm feeling it and I'm wanting to share, I am at Carmen Serano, with one R, Carmen, Serano, on Instagram. And then also my coaching Instagram is there too. So, and that there's a link on my bio, and you can also find me on Worthy Journey on Instagram.
Okay, awesome. And as you guys know, any link or topic or IMDb or things like that's mentioned, obviously going to be posted in the description and anywhere we can. I mean, Carmen, it was, again, it was a real pleasure. I mean, I know we had talked about some stuff that year, but I knew we were going to be able to kind of get into some pretty just different topics and stuff that is, it's interesting, like, I don't get a chance to talk about a lot of that stuff a lot. So that's why, again, like I said, I wanted to dive into this a little bit. So I'm really glad that we were able to kind of like segue between both and kind of dive into different things. And
thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time. Everyone he knows here at the Phantom Effect, we try to give little experiences and tips and different things. And so I think the best little tip to provide everybody with today would be to just, like Carmen's been saying, don't rule out ways to heal yourself. Like we all go through different things, and different things work for different people. So I just, hopefully everyone out there listening to this gets, and not only that, good stories from Carmen about her career, but ways to maybe push through different things that maybe, you didn't think about it before. And if that's what you take out of this, then I am A-okay with that being your takeaway from this. Because, as everyone knows, if you listen to this show before, is we like to not only dive into the fandoms, but ways to help other people find new things and find new experiences. So hopefully you guys got that from this episode as well. If you do want to check out whether it's past episodes or keep up with various things that we're doing, Facebook and Twitter, it's very simple. At Phantom Effect, you'll find us both on there. If you do want to catch some different stuff on Twitch, you can go to twitch.tv/BushidoGeek. I do games and furious stuff on there. If you do want to support the show at all, our Patreon is now up. Patreon.com/Phantom Effect Podcast. we're always adding new things that we can help to support. So quick shout out to our current Patreon members, Randy, James, and Ryan, for helping support the show. And anyone else that does help it, of course, we will mention you as well. If you do want to follow some of the cosplay stuff I do, you can go to Instagram.com/Bushido Geek Cosplay and catch some of the fun little cosplay things I do here and there. But of course, you guys, like I said, the whole point is to just find different experiences and find new fandoms and different things to be passionate about. So hopefully this helped you guys get there. Any major podcasting platform, you guys know you can find us, Apple, Spotify, Pandora. If it has a podcast on it, we are there and you can catch us there. You can also catch us, and you can see in the little corner, at the Scene Snobs Network every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, where our episodes will re-air on that network as well. And we got a lot of cool stuff in the works. I will be debuting a new weekly nerd news show, hopefully within the month on that network, where I'm just going to take about an hour every week and go over stuff that's happened in the industry, whether it's anime, comics, or video games in the past week. And just a lot of other cool stuff we got in the works and we got going. So you're going to want to make sure you pay attention every Friday bright and early for our new episodes, every other Tuesday for our bonus level episodes. And then just, like I said, we got a lot of cool stuff in the works. So you're going to want to make sure you keep up to date. Carmen, any final words for everybody that's whether listening live or for people that listen later?
I just wanted to say thank you. It's been such a pleasure, such an honor to be able to be here. And thank you for allowing me the space to share as openly and vulnerably as you would allow. I mean, you had nothing that needed to be held back, or you just gave me that freedom. And I am super grateful, because I hope that it will inspire others to do the same and to dig deep and to resist nothing, because what you resist persists, and to kind of ride those obstacles like waves. And so I'm super grateful to have been able to share. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad that it helped you feel that way. Cause again, other than maybe politics, I like to keep everything a very open book, because people are going to, those are the experiences that, and like you said, if one person listens to this and takes away something that helps their mental state, myself included being in that, everyone knows listens to this. I'm very open with stuff I'm going through right now. Then, that makes all the difference, because fandoms and everything is fun to talk about, but we do have the other side of it. We want to dive into the realism of what these things mean to people, because of just not only the passion behind it, but the things that are there as well. And we got a couple comments coming in, thanking you for your support and the words that you've been sharing. So a couple of people sharing their thanks for that, which is always great to see. Like I said earlier, Carmen, before we even started recording, we came up with an idea. I won't spoil it, but me and Carmen have an idea for something that could be a really cool future episode. That would combine a couple things. So it's going to take some coordination to get this to work, but if we get it, it's, stay tuned. We got some great stuff in the works. Cameron, would you like to say goodbye as well? Okay. Cameron's going to say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, Cameron.
Best way to end it. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next edition of the Phantom Effect podcast.